I thought he said be down.
I said now.
We
Go.
Good morning. Welcome to Community Voice. I'm your host, Keith Parris. I want to thank everybody for joining us this morning. Good morning, Debo. Good morning, Clark Kent. Who you with? You hyped for a Monday, man.
I got some rest.
You got some rest? Oh, you got some.
No, I'm sorry. Number 12. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I can always tell when I'm not on,
Yeah.
So what's happening, y'all?
Ain't much.
Oh, man. It's been an interesting weekend,
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
to say the least.
Okay.
How was your weekend, Keith? Really?
I'm doing a Sinead, right? Actually, it was pretty good, man. Great sports weekend.
You speak anywhere this week?
No, man, we just chilling, up the way. No, it was actually, pretty good weekend. Weather was, wasn't too bad. Yeah, how was yours?
Oh, just great, man. Of course, got my church on and had a couple engagements that we fulfilled. So yeah, it was a good weekend.
What about you, Clark?
Mine was a good weekend. Yesterday, I got some rest. Called myself, tried to clean up the yard, but our street tore up, so it don't make no difference to clean.
Where are you?
On between 20th and Top Tony, and on Keith. So they doing construction. So there's so much trash, and it's just blowing down that way. So there's no need for me to keep going out. I keep going out and picking up, but I don't see like I ain't did nothing.
He stays in Union.
I don't stay in Union.
You're cemetery?
Yeah, you go out his back door. Cemetery right there. No fence, no nothing, just cemetery.
Yeah, it used to be fences there.
Yeah, there were so many crashes.
Well, we have a new member of the team, Mr. Drake Bentley. Good morning, sir.
Hello.
You gonna give him the hand claps, Clark?
Thank you. How's everyone doing?
We're doing good, man. What's happening?
Pretty good.
Are you gonna be this solemn all the time, Drake? Just so we know.
I'm not much of a talker, I talk when it's important. I talk when I need to, I guess.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Welcome
Some
aboard.
people would
We're
learn
glad to
that.
have you.
They
We're
just
glad to have you to the
be
team.
talking, bro.
Hope you rub off on a few others around here.
There's this dude I used to run into every year at the Fatherhood Summit. Every year, me and this dude get into it. So one year, he's talking. He's just talking. So then I finally said, "You still talking? Because you ain't moved the needle. You just over there talking." So anyway, well, welcome, man.
I appreciate it.
Tell us a little bit about you.
I'm happy to be here. Milwaukee native. I grew up off of about 74th and Medford over by Grand Tosa and Hampton area over there. I was a Chapter 220 kid, so I went to Wauwatosa schools.
You go to Whitman?
No, I went to the east side, so I went to Longfellow.
Okay, because I went to Whitman.
Okay.
Long.
And then
He wasn't there long.
Really, Keith?
Right.
Who put that out there? I did go for a little while.
Went to Tosa East for high school. Went to Whitewater for college. They say it's like the black Wisconsin school, but
They used to call it Blackwater back in the day.
yeah.
I think Byron went to Whitewater, didn't he?
I've been at the Journal Sentinel the last 5 years. Excited for a new adventure, something that's a little bit closer to my interests, and I'm excited to get into it and start following city and county government a little bit closer for the station.
So what will your role be like? You'd be like a reporter?
Yeah, civic engagement in sports. So everything from voting rights to what's happening on the mayor's docket to the common council. And then also, trying to get a little bit of uh, that culture aspect of highlighting, some top basketball players and football players in the city.
So let's put you right to work. So what did you think of the WIAA boys tournament?
What did I think of it?
Yeah.
I think, I remember back in the day when Milwaukee King used to do the stalling at the end of the game.
So we talked about the Juneau Cambridge game.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think at this point you gotta have a shot clock. I don't know. If there's 6.5 minutes left in the game and you're just going to stand at the top of half court, I think it's problematic. But I was happy that Juneau won Division IV. I thought it was interesting that Whitefish Bay won and they got a shout out from the mayor. But yeah.
But then he also have Wisconsin Lutheran, which is a Milwaukee school.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think probably more area. But let's get back to this because I had to look at it through my tinged racial lens. Had that been Cambridge that decided to hold the clock, hold the ball, stall the ball? Because the coach, there was a method to his madness. He only had 5 players. And he told his players that, we're going to try to be able to save timeouts. So he took advantage of the rule in order, but maybe y'all correct me, but part of me was saying, had that been a white school, we would have been talking about the brilliance of the coach. Now we're talking about a rule change.
Yeah. When you look at the times that it has happened, it has been predominantly black schools. So for unfortunate that is pretty unfortunate, but I think if the pro game and the college game has a shot clock, I don't see any reason why the high school game can't have a shot clock.
And I agree with you. I do know that there's certain games Dominican used to play when they played on ESPN. There was a shot clock because it's a national game, really different kind of rules, more exhibition than a game that counts for anything. But what should he have done? I mean, he would have been in a tough situation. I'm just looking at the game and the in-game strategy in terms of I only have 5 players, and it became apparent he only had 5 players. I'm talking about they could be competitive when they got their medals. Because when you saw the kids that were coming off the bench, they looked like middle schoolers, right? They were gonna really have a problem. But I just think, and we should go to a shot clock. I'm not against it, but I never heard this before. And then it happens with Juneau. So maybe, again, it's my racial sensitivities.
Yeah. I mean, I really don't think, to be honest, there is a racial aspect here. I think it's more of a competition thing that I understand he was, dealt a bad hand, but teams in the pro level, teams in the college level are also dealt bad hands. So,
right, and I've seen teams do it to their detriment, where they slow the ball down and get all out of rhythm, and next thing you know, the game has changed. So, and again, at first I'm going like, dude, why are you holding the ball? But then it began to make sense. It began to make sense. So. I was just looking at, being an alum of Dominican, we had 5 Pete. So do you see that Wisconsin Lutheran team look like they're going to have Knipples playing until 2030? Literally, they will have Knipples playing in 2030 because they have a Knipple right now who's in middle school who'll be going to Wisco next year.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great. I think you look at Khan, he could be rookie of the year in the NBA, which is a bit surprising. Yeah, I think it's awesome for the city, and really the next 2 years, 2026 and 2027, are some of the best recruiting classes Wisconsin has had in a long time. And
he's committed to Wisconsin.
Knippel?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, not recruiting classes for Wisconsin. I mean,
out of Wisconsin.
within the high school, right?
Okay.
So yeah, excited to see what happens. Hopefully, my Toasi's Red Raiders can get back into it. The women's team is really good.
It's been a while.
Yeah. Well, I mean, 3-4 years.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you can't win a championship every year.
Oh no. I guess you're good. There was those back in the day, the great UCLA teams. Washington, but Washington did too. Girls, no, I think it was Pius. The Pius girls.
Tavia Horton, they had a good squad back then.
Yeah.
In the 90s. I think it was a couple in a row.
Yeah, but the Pius teams under Joel Klassen, man, they were just dominant. It was every year you knew they were going to win state. That's just so. High school basketball. Let me ask you a question. When we talk about this and we talk about high school basketball, what do you think the impact of AAU has been on basketball? You know, back in the day for me, it's being invited to a 4-star camp.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's the showcases in terms of AAU.
Mm-hmm. You know, AAU for me is kind of I don't like the fact with AAU that it's created an environment where everyone's kind of friends, as bad as that sounds, but I think it can hurt competition. You talk to Michael Jordan, he'll tell you now he wants to beat LeBron James at basketball, even at however old he is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of the LeBron James generation kind of grew up together, and they I think it hurt competition for a few years. In my opinion.
You think so?
Yeah.
Why would you?
Well, because I think you had the fact that people were, you know, teaming up to try and win championships, and that was going on for probably 10 years or so. Didn't happen as much. You know, Giannis is kind of the kryptonite to that. For right now, at least.
I think
yeah. I think it's a higher level of basketball at AAU for sure.
Right. But what's good? But the thing about how people team up to win championships, you played playground ball, right?
I mean, I'm not a huge athlete, to be honest.
Oh, okay. So, well, for all you other athletes here, you gonna put the best team possible. Part of the fact when Wade and Bosch and James got together, it showed a certain level of power that the players had, because prior to that, it was really the owners who drove it. In terms of I didn't have a problem with KD going to the Warriors. I really didn't.
I did. I think, but really, it really kind of starts with Boston. That team that with KG and Ray and Paul Pierce, but I think the power has been there on the player side for a while because of players from back in the day. But to say that LeBron had to go to Miami or KD had to go to Golden State, KD went to Golden State after the team beat him in the conference finals. I joined that team and then won the championship. So,
okay. All right. I'm not a big fan of Rudy. I think you in it to win it. If you could stack it. I mean, when you look at,
would you like to see Giannis leave for a better opportunity?
Oh yeah, I think Giannis has given Milwaukee 13 years and a championship. So whatever he needs to do, I think he's earned it. He deserves it. I wouldn't have the same reaction. I was a little guy when Kareem left, and I remember just how devastating that was. But Kareem
wanted to go. See, yeah. I don't think Giannis wants to leave.
But I think he also has to look his business too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in terms of him wanting to leave. I think it's great for the franchise because he's still putting, meat in the seats. That's why, when I was talking to a buddy of mine and was talking about whether or not he should be shut down for the end of the season. Well, for a lot of those folks, they spend a whole lot of money on those tickets.
Mhm.
So they'd love to be able to see him. But no, I wouldn't have a problem with him leaving. And I don't think he should go. Let me put it this way. I don't think he's worn out his welcome like, hey, bye. I just think that, but 13 years, man, he's kind of an outlier
Mhm.
when you look at people, being with teams or Steph Curry, people like that. But no, if he has a better opportunity, why not? Certainly, if he has a chance to get another ring.
I think the real question with the Bucks is can they go another year with Doc Rivers? He's under contract for one more year,
Right.
but I respect Doc Rivers as a person, but as a basketball coach, he's got one championship with Boston. I probably could have won that ring with Boston. After that, I'm not exactly sure what he has accomplished other than blow 3-1 series leads. So
Yeah, but you got to look at the hand he's dealt with. He's
had great teams.
Yeah, but the whole Damon Lillard thing. I wish Damon hadn't got hurt. That experiment probably would have had better results. Certainly, what Giannis is playing with now. I mean, I don't know how much of his coaching. You're right. Certain teams you go out, it's like the '80 Celtics. Well, I could coach the '80 Celtics. You got 6 Hall of Famers, right? Just put them on the floor and do timeouts. That's basically what you have to do. But most people don't. How do you get a whole lot of what the guy who's coaching at OKC, in my mind, he has great talent, but that's young talent. He's been able to meld that talent into winning a championship. So
yeah, I think OKC, Milwaukee can learn a lot from OKC as a small market. Because remember that OKC team from back in the day that had Durant, Westbrook, and Harden. They blew all that up, had all these draft picks, and that's kind of what the Bucks got to do if they were to leave Giannis.
Should they tank?
What is that?
Should they tank?
Should they take what?
Tank.
Oh, should they tank? No. Well, first of all, I don't think Giannis is ever going to support tanking, but no, I don't believe in tanking.
One of those things was all those draft picks that OKC had and kind of where they were finishing it, I think. We're joined in the studio by a new member of our team, Mr. Drake Bentley. Phone lines open, y'all, 414-444-5250, 414-444-5250. Go take a quick break. We'll be right back.
V 860 AM and 106.5 FM.
I'm not gonna lean forward, man. Here come the rejoinder. Here come the rejoinder. Still waiting on the rejoinder. Again, we're joined by a new colleague, Mr. Drake Bentley. So what made you decide to join the Civic Media Courier Communications WNOV team?
I would say you guys have a phenomenal operations manager. He's sitting in the room with us. Hey,
Didn't expect you to say anything different on your first day. We'll see how you feel next week. Tell us how you really
Don't leave the
feel.
room so we have an honest conversation.
The Journal Sentinel for me was my childhood newspaper. It was the newspaper that was delivered to my house every day. And I think there's a little bit of kind of restraints on creativity, I would say, when you get into these major publications that are owned by big companies like Gannett. And I think WNOV and the Courier has a chance to make some waves in the city, do some good journalism. And it's also a historically Black outlet, which is, we're sitting here on 20th and Capitol, and it's, something that's near and dear to my heart, I would say.
So what are some of the opportunities you see?
Some of the opportunities you said? Well, government is, if we can't come about change unless we create change. So having a more informed public, it's something I'm passionate about, something I want to get into at my time here. But also not necessarily diverting people from other media outlets, but I think you look at some of the situations that are happening in neighborhoods and among the youth. They're kind of crying out for more things to do, more opportunities, more knowledge, really. And I hope to play a part in that.
And I was, hey, Biko, why don't you join us? Because I wanted to, there was a situation here and you were mentioned, and so I'd like to get your take on it. This past Thursday, there was a bringing together of young people over at Washington Park Senior Center. They had over 500 young people there. But there was a situation in the parking lot. And so WISN 12 had covered the situation in the parking lot. What it was that allegedly there was someone in a stolen car, had a gun, had a confrontation there. Not serious confrontation, but a confrontation there. The person worked with one of the groups who was participating. What I'm getting from this, though, is media portrayal, right, and media representation, and how majority media covers our community, in particular, our young folks. And so why was it important for you to make sure that we didn't lose sight of what the purpose was, even the outcomes of what that event was?
Yeah, I think it's important for people to realize that Milwaukee is filled with thousands of young kids who are doing amazing stuff every single day. And I was at that event at Washington Park, and I went in there, and it felt like events that myself, Muhib Kwabena, Andre Lee Ellis, Baba Courtney, and other people used to do back in the day. It felt like Garvey Day when the Mbalias used to do it on Center and by the Black Holocaust Museum, or the Historical Society, I'm sorry, Mr. Benson. And unfortunately, the news has led with if it bleeds, it leads. And the reason why I'm so excited about Drake is because he's always been nuanced. In fact, I first met Drake while as an individual walking up and down Center after a young person was murdered. He didn't know who I was. He came up and talked to me. And since that time, You know, I've watched him. I've seen how he's been able to bring nuance, bring Black voices into spaces, and he's a rock star. And you know, it took us. He actually called me the first day that I was hired, and so it's been amazing to get him on board. And you know, today is his first time he said he's done radio.
Yeah.
So look to see him growing and improving as a content creator, because we got a rock star with us right now.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, he never called me a rock star.
And
Anybody else get that?
we'll see how he really feels on next week too.
And with all my hits, right? But I think that conversation has to be had. And then, you know, we had another situation at Bayshore this weekend. We had the situation down on Water Street, right? And so I don't know, how do we have a discussion where it's honest? I use this word nuance. How do we have that conversation? How do we report that where there's a balance, or even should there be a balance?
You know, it's not a perfect science. I think one of the things we learned throughout the Black Lives Matter era, if you want to call it that, is that, like Biko said, there needs to be some nuance with reporting, whether that's additional voices. There's nobody really reporting. If you look at like what WISN did, they did it because it was crime. That's why they did that story, but they didn't do any reporting on what happened inside of the building. And the Courier did, which was awesome. But you got to be able to, you know, look at the full picture of what's going on.
Yeah, because I lead conversations every day. And unfortunately, if we're not there live at the event, all we can rely on is media reporting. And obviously there's bias when you report,
or even Facebook reporting nowadays.
Or Facebook reporting where people are live. But even then, you know, that's just one point of view, right? You know, it's like a car accident. You can have 5 witnesses who will have 5 different takes on it. In some ways that's good, in some ways that's bad, because you're trying to figure out, okay, what actually happened. And you're right in terms of those. Now, if you just ask me, I think the individual who is the subject of that reporting probably exercised some poor judgment. I mean, I think that's fair.
I think I read today that 13 people were arrested at Bayshore.
Yeah. And here's the thing about that. That was organized. That was... He pushed.
But they were just getting together. What was it about? I just heard about it this morning, but I don't know what was.
Oh, they were there to do what they were there
like
to
they
do.
did on Wall Street.
I mean, it sounds like it was organized online, and that. I remember David Crowley kind of spoke to this last summer, or maybe a summer before, but they kind of start online, and people would go to that old abandoned Walmart on the north side. I forget where it's at, and just kind of loiter basically and hang out in Midtown. Yeah, but I think there was a different one other than Midtown. But
well, the Midtown one was when they had all the shots and nobody got.
That was that one. Yeah,
500 shots and nobody got hurt. That was amazing.
And police said they try and combat it by following social, but I don't think the police are the solution, anyways. But you know, how do we get young people to stay engaged and then also remain nonviolent?
Yeah, and you know, it's easy for generations to look at the current generation and go, "Ooh, you know, we just lost." If the phone lines are open, people call in. It starts at home. Blah 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 blah. Well, I see remnants of other generations, poor decision and poor behavior. All you have to do is drive down Capitol and get up near Sherman, and those signs are still up about you can't do U-turns during a certain time of the night. What generation was that? Was that the 90s?
Early 2000s.
That was Jermaine,
Early 2000.
Yeah,
that was Jermaine's
when
generation.
people were just cruising and basically took over capital
Mhm.
and the impact it has. So young folks. Now the other part of me goes though, but boy, if you could organize like that on some dumb stuff, could you imagine if you organized on something? Yeah, and
Serious.
but whose responsibility is that to be able to get that message in the young folks' head to say, hey, this is really about, I was asking my godson whether or not he was going to vote. And I took him to register and vote for the first time. And, he's a 20-year-old. Well, who's running? I don't know. He was a little bit more engaged in the 2024, presidential election. I mean, how could you not be? Because it's just there. But, how do we get people to be able, young folks to be able to understand that maybe there's some things other than just chilling and doing stuff? I mean, we got spring break madness,
I think the overwhelming majority of young people want change and they don't want to be lectured to by either political party or the establishment, quote unquote. And I think you look at like the governor's race happening right now, you see a lot of young people are engaged with that race because there's a candidate that's speaking to their interests.
Who's that?
And that's Francesca Hong.
Okay.
She is majority, according to the Marquette poll, are undecided, but she does have the highest. She's polling at about 10% statewide, I believe, or it might be 10% in Milwaukee, I forget. But she's leading Milwaukee. She's probably going to sweep Madison because that's her home place. And, she's backed by DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America. And you look at the wave of someone like Mamdani and Bernie Sanders. Young people enjoy that type of politics. They do.
I hate to be that dude.
Don't surprise us.
I hate to be that dude, like get off my grass. It has always been, of course, young people will, and I'm going to say fringe, and I won't use extreme. I'm trying to come up with an adjective where, it's really idealistic. The revolution, but it was something. Was it Tim Kaine during the presidential debate during the primaries? He turned to Bernie Sanders and he said, "Bernie, the revolution's not coming." I'll never forget, that was like one of the most striking lines. So that gets young people involved, but then young people get frustrated because they think that, these changes are going to happen immediately. And I think anyone who's ever studied political science will tell you, do not underestimate the power of the status quo, right? I mean, that is, when you look at changes made in America, is nibbled around the edges, but the status quo kind of remains the same. And so what I'm saying to young folks is that you need to understand that this is a marathon, not a sprint.
I'll have to disagree with, I'll agree to disagree on that, Keith, but I think a big part of the reasons why we have President Donald Trump is because people to the left of the Democratic Party refuse to vote for regular Democratic figures, whether that be Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton, or Joe Biden, although Biden had a lot of votes. And I don't really think that's going to change. And you look at who's the major power players right now and who's controlling the crowds. It is this new wave of progressivism. And I do think we live in a post-Mamdani world that I know New York doesn't reflect everywhere in the country, but you do have someone with a similar platform to Mamdani running in Wisconsin right now and doing pretty well for herself. So we'll see how it all shakes out, though.
Yeah, well, and I'm gonna disagree to disagree. I disagree to disagree. No, but I understand, and here's the other thing: you just can't measure it by crowds. You cannot measure it by crowds. Crowds are like vapors, right? What you really want to is how do you turn out people, because the way that some of the things are going to change is through voting. How do you turn that group out? If nothing else, my guy Charlie Kirk and Joe Rogan turned out a group of voters who normally would not even be involved or participate. That was young white males.
But who did Joe Rogan support before Donald Trump? Do you know?
No.
Bernie Sanders.
Okay. Well, so one extreme to another?
What's extreme about Bernie Sanders?
Oh, Bernie Sanders, when you talk about socialism, I'm just saying how people perceive socialism. That word is loaded for a lot of folks when they hear socialism. And then, you know, we break it down into, if I could do this, voting stratas. You know, you have likely voters, and then you have registered voters, and then you have that apolitical group of people out there who may or may not get involved. And that gets us back. So yeah, I could have great rallies. Y'all remember, and it actually was very successful. Rock the Vote. You know, but if you just depended on crowds, yeah, people show up for the party, you know, but now when it's time to show up to vote, then other things get in the way of that. And so then now there are some people out there who are progressive. I mean, they are committed, they're progressive, but I would say that among, and anybody who's, and you worked in Tammy Baldwin's office, so you understand, anyone who's a political operative tell you the toughest group of people to get the vote are people between the ages of about 21 and 30. That's a tough group, right? You know, I mean, there are other priorities that people have out there, unless you have something like, I thought like 1972 was the first election in America that 18-year-olds could vote. Part of that was a political calculation based on what was going on in the war. People were saying, well, if you can go and die in Vietnam, you should be able to vote. It was all those things. I don't know what amendment that was, 25th, 24th Amendment. I can still tell you that even 50 years later, the group that's least likely to vote are the very people, those 18, maybe 18 to 28, 18 to 25. Not to say that they won't, because they won't. And obviously, what Joe Rogan was able to do, where you get people who, like in a state like Wisconsin, that was the margin. Because at first we had the situation in 2020, was it 2020? No, 2016, where people stayed at home. Black folks weren't going to go vote, and particularly black men weren't going to go and vote for Hillary Clinton. Okay. And so and we did it much to our peril. That election was decided by 22,000 votes with millions of votes cast. So Wisconsin being
you also had Bernie supporters not voting for Hillary too.
Exactly. And that's a whole, but then you have to make an adult decision. You know, is the evil two lessers.
Hillary also did campaign here. She ran a very bad campaign, and
I would agree with that.
I think one of the things, Keith, is what's happened is Milwaukee, the mean age is 31 years old. You know, and when you look around the country, young people, they believe in meaningful content. They believe in content that they can know is authentic. Authenticity is so important. Back in my day, we used to say keeping it real. They don't say that, but it's what they're looking for. And
I was looking for it at the same age.
But I think the unfortunate reality is, I've been spending a lot of time looking at the Courier.
Right.
It was a young person's paper.
Right.
Where are the media outlets that are talking now to young people? They're not. Everybody just doesn't want to deal with them. And so you have a group of people who don't have a campfire. They don't have Apollo. They don't have Johnson's Park. They don't have Capitol Court. They don't have Skateland. They don't have all these things that we have. And so they're organizing themselves because they have the phone. And it's up for us as a black station that's going to continue to be black to be the thing that people are paying attention to. And it's important. It's important that people like Drake are talking to young people. And it's also important that we give them space. You know, that's one thing that I used to call up here when it was, Teju and them. They used to give me space to come up and talk. Right. And I think we're not doing that because we're so afraid of them, even though they look, talk, and act just like we did 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago.
Well, you know what? I don't know if it was something where it was a prohibition. I just think that it was one of those things where maybe we were so focused on our demographic that we didn't realize that there are other demographics out there.
Yeah, but right now, all brands and companies all across the country have done that, are now falling because they're not keeping up with the new market. And right. I think that Any company that's not, when people say young people, they think young. But when you're thinking, say young, you're saying the meta thing is they're brown, black, and Asian. That's who's young in America. And until we're able to shift that mind state to like young people equal, and that's America, not NOV, because we're going to do it, but that young people are people of color, we're going to continue to go over their heads, and they're going to continue to be wild because they're not being organized or structured.
Caller, welcome to the program. Good morning. Good morning.
About Barney Sanders. The guest on the panel kind of his ears perked up. He said, "What's wrong with Barney and socialism?" I'd like to ask those guys on the panel, do you understand what socialism is in its full-blown state?
Do I understand what socialism is in its full-blown state?
Yes.
Well, I think there's a difference between socialism or leftism or communism in a foreign sense as opposed to American socialism, democratic socialism.
Well, they would have to pattern. They would have to pattern they would have to blueprint their operation from some such. So, I mean, you just named 3 or 4 different avenues. But if it were to go socialist, I mean, they would have to pattern that for something. So I'm just asking you, do you understand what it is in its full-blown state?
Sure. But the thing is for you, what does it mean for you in its full-blown state?
Well, I think that it would be total government control at that point. And that's what I've looked
Total
at.
government control. What doesn't government control?
I've looked at, hold on one.
You look at the modern day, the modern leftist is supporting something like universal health care. That's not an extreme
when you
position.
Say universal health care, would that be total? See, universal health care is a difference between health care for all. See, when you say universal health care, that's sort of like saying affordable housing. Okay, affordable housing doesn't mean that it's affordable to for everyone, or that it's affordable for that.
It means what it says, Meech.
Affordable housing. That's right. But affordable housing means it could be bracketed off your income, brother. It's not low income housing.
Well, no.
So they use that word. They use the word affordable housing. So all the poor people in the hood, oh, it's affordable housing, it's affordable housing. But then when they get there and they start to apply for it, they realize that this is not affordable housing. This one is $1,600, it's $1,200.
Let me ask you a question. Are you paying into Social Security?
Of course.
That's socialism.
Well, I get that part.
Oh, okay.
But that's not what I'm talking about.
So some socialism is okay. Other socialism
for
isn't.
me, not for thee.
Right. Let me do this. Hold on, Meech. You're listening to
community. I mean, our fire department is socialist. I get all of
libraries, public parks.
Right. But that's right. But I'm talking about when government sticks his hand in.
Government does. You paying Social Security not to a private. Who are you paying Social Security to? A private entity or government?
Listen, I get all of that, but I'm talking about.
No, just answer my question. Who are you paying your Social Security to?
Well, we paying it to the government.
Okay. So
now, what about when they stick their hands in and they mandate? See, that's what I'm concerned about.
Government can and now whether we agree with the mandate, if in society government sees that there is a community interest in saying, for example, we're saying vaccines for children. Well, there's a community interest in making sure that children are vaccinated to make sure we don't spread disease.
Okay.
There's a social good that's derived from that mandate.
That's a good argument, and we don't have time to fight about it on the radio.
Okay,
but
all right, man, I appreciate you. Let me do this, man. I got to take a break. You're listening to Community Voice. We're gonna take a quick break. Joined in the studio by Mr. Drake Bentley. We'll be right back.
And 106.5 FM with your host, Keith Parris.
Welcome back. Welcome back, man. Oh my God. Welcome back. You know what, man? I watched I don't know how many of y'all watched Paradise. I was a little disappointed in the conclusion. It was kind of anticlimactic. So I'm not gonna do a spoiler alert, but there's a lot of people out there really in the Paradise. I don't know if people watch it, but it was really disappointing. Last week,
hey guys, let me ask a question of both of you. We talked about it a little bit Friday with Michelle before she left for her trip. But Keith, have you seen? Because you always turn me on to movies. I know you're a movie buff. Uncle Joe's, what is it? Spring Vacation or College Tour? I think it's called. Tyler Perry.
Oh man, George told me not to watch it, so I didn't.
He told you not to watch it for what reason?
Well, the way his critique of it was that I would look. I'm not a Tyler Perry fan, so I don't really like Tyler Perry movies. So,
well, let me just add, I did get a chance to sit and watch it, and we somewhat critiqued it Friday with Michelle. I got what he was trying to do, but somewhere in the messaging, he lost me because I didn't really like the delivery, if you will. But the messaging was certainly there. So it's a good movie. I think you have to form your own opinion on it. But I don't necessarily agree with the messaging as far as how it was delivered. But I suggest you watch it. Okay, what George say?
Okay, well, when I understand Tyler Perry understands his market, and he stays in his lane.
But this isn't that. It just isn't.
What do you
mean? Because there's some real messaging there. There's. I don't want to ruin it for people that haven't seen it. If you, because if I go too deep into it, then because there were parts where I'm going, well, why didn't he tell the grandson, where they were at? Well, truth be told, he didn't tell the viewers either. If you knew, you knew. If you didn't know, then you learned something when we got to the end part.
Well, that means, and part of Tyler Perry's problem, he won't bring in any other writers. He does it all by himself. And man, as gifted as anybody is, at some point you need collaboration. That's something he does not do. Now, he does give people work, and you can't argue that. Then from a community investment perspective, man, dude is a 10. But when it just comes to the art, and again, because I love movies so much, I just think that but again, there are people out there who really enjoy him, and that's okay. I mean, it's just like Adam Sandler. There's all these people out there who enjoy his comedy, right?
Drake, have you seen the movie yet?
I have not, no. I wanted to ask, though, do you think Sinners deserve the Oscar?
For Best Picture?
Yeah.
I saw one battle after another.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually pretty good. I thought it was, you can see where Sean Penn, Sinners was good. I think I was sitting there and I was telling folks on the air Monday after the Oscars, I said I had a tally sheet. They had been nominated for 16 Oscars. I'm wondering now, are we going to have The Color Purple? 13, 0. And so when they started winning it, so I just think, but it was actually, and I just watched Secret Agent last night. Mm. So there were some really good films. I think the fact that it was recognized, because didn't he get Best Screen?
He got Best Screenplay, I believe. Coogler did, and Michael B. Jordan got Best Actor.
But that's pretty good for anybody, in terms of.
I mean, Michael B. Jordan played twins,
Right. But you know what? So did Robert De Niro. Mm. And was it Alto? Yeah, he played two gangsters, played two different roles. Yeah, it was good. I love, and you know what? I didn't realize how good that closing scene was until they did it at the Oscars, and how they did that whole showing how our music in the diaspora was developed, and blues being kind of like the linchpin of all of that.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was cool. And then I'd go like, now that was good.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy who, because best score, yeah, was Sinners. Mm-hmm. I think Sinners is a great movie. I would give it 9 out of 10. Mm-hmm. It's no Oppenheimer, But what is
Oppenheimer's a good movie.
Oppenheimer's like one of the greatest movies ever made. Everybody talking about
Mm-hmm.
Citizen Kane. Oppenheimer it checks all the boxes. It's rare that a film could do that. Maybe The
Good movie.
Godfather, where it just checks all the boxes. But to the point that even if you didn't
You
understand
doing a Jermaine over there?
nuclear physics, it gave you a sense of things there. It was
But Keith,
That had a lot of great actors in it too.
oh yeah.
Mr. Drake,
And that's the thing about Sinners. Yes, sir.
do you guys agree that timing is everything? And sometimes it's when that movie is released.
Yeah.
Who you up against?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't watch Sinners until the night before the Oscars just because
really?
I wanted to see how it would do at the Oscars. I'm not a huge movie person. I'm usually busy, but I like documentaries and stuff like that.
Me too. Well, we for the culture, and people have a tendency to look at entertainment through cultural lenses, right? And so when people go in, I know for me, I'm looking to see how many black people in the movie, and then when they die. From a cultural lens. Now, from a person who, when you study film, that's only a part of it. Look at how the film, look at the narrative. It's like when Debo is talking about that there are these plot holes. There shouldn't be plot holes. Even if it's mystery, at some point you should be able to find the answer. God, I'm trying to think of this. This Tim Robbins movie, where they're in Vietnam. They just did a remake of it. They're in Vietnam. You're thinking that he's living in real time, but actually he's having a near-death experience because they gave these Vietnam soldiers this drug, right, to help them be better fighters, and they end up killing each other. And you don't know till the end. And even then at the end of it, they have to have the director and producer come on and explain what it was, and you go like, oh. So anytime there's plot holes, like I think one of the laziest movies ever made was Coming to America.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they just kind of put that on auto write, and then you knew it was when the country that Wesley Snipes ran was next door. I went like, okay, here we go. So I mean, and look, black people can make bad movies. They really can. It's okay. That part of equality is that you have the opportunity to fail, but you at least need the opportunity. Okay. Because, I was watching Dolomite. There is no way.
Terrible.
It was so terrible. It was good. It's like Pootie Tang. It's just like, but that's okay, because then what these movies then garner is like cult followings, right? Like the movie that one of the movies back in the day, I don't know if you guys ever saw it, was The Stepfather. Stepfather was released at the theater. Nobody went to see it. So you go to Blockbusters, I'll get a movie. You get Stepfathers. Stepfathers become like a cult classic. Just Terry O'Quinn, just based on the fact that it did well at the theater. Did you all know that The Wizard of Oz originally did not do well at the theater? It was almost considered a failure. So sometimes you just got to kind of watch it. Sometimes it just has to kind of get out there, and then people go like, oh, Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Well,
Great
Wizard of Oz only did well because it's clear that someone was on drugs who made it.
And your point is
Alice,
Rick James, I mean, you just so is it the drugs or is it the talent? Because my buddy who's a big Coltrane fan, he said he thought Coltrane was better after drugs. There's some people saying Miles Davis. I mean, yeah, there's a scene in the original Wizard of Oz, and I didn't catch it, but they can see Oz off in the distance. What field did they run through? Did anybody know what field they ran through? It took me a while to figure out what the point he was making. Poppy does heroin, drugs.
Because that's why they was like
right. And so then they're knocked out. And what it took, Now it took me years. Certainly, I didn't get it as a kid, but as an adult, I went like, oh, okay, there's an illusion there. Caller, welcome to the program.
Hey Keith, it's John. How you doing?
Hey John, what's happening?
Not much. How you doing?
I'm good, man.
Good. You know Joe Pass, who played the guitar on solo with Ella Fitzgerald? They used to do duets, real quiet, where she would sing alone. He was a heroin addict, and the guy was a genius. He would play a guitar like you would play a piano, where you do a separate bass line and then chords, and like he's got two different minds.
Jimi
Coordination. Pardon me?
Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah, right. But anyways, on socialism, I think that what needs to be happening with socialism itself, people who prescribe socialism, they sound illiterate to me, economically illiterate. Like, say when you guys are talking sports, you got all these brackets, all these names. You speak fluidly like you're talking about jazz. You like Cornel West, when he talks jazz, he's a genius. But when he talks economics, he just doesn't sound like he has a clue what he's talking about. And I know you said he's like a high priest, but if you can't describe what capitalism is without constantly insulting it, like listening to AOC talk, she sounds stupid. She sounds like she's an absolute airhead.
Because people critique capitalism and the negative impact that capitalism has on lives?
No. She said it's irredeemable, like Hitler, because the progressive interview said, so isn't progressivism supposed to help soften the blow? And she said, are you going to try to regulate Hitler? I thought that was the most ridiculous stuff.
Well, I think that people are trying to get us to a point where, and tell me if I'm wrong on this, there was something where people talked about, well, America runs a dual system. It is a social capitalist system. It really is.
You mean like Social Security you talk about?
Right. That's socialism. And there's always been this dynamic between the capitalists who don't believe that any money should go towards social uplift, and that it should be based on this idea that you pull yourself up economically by your bootstraps. But then you're at the mercy of the overlords of capitalism. Then labor is being exploited. That was another reason why socialism, one of the reasons why we get the New Deal is that America, after the Depression and during the Depression, was moving more towards socialism and communism, right? So part of FDR's response to that was saying, well, the government needs to do more to uplift people socially, economically. And here's the reality. We didn't get out of the Great Depression until the mid-50s. As quiet as it's kept. Right. Part of the war and then the post-war boom. But most people, there were a majority of Americans, think about it. You had a 25% unemployment rate. I'm going to say that again. During the Great Depression, you had a 25% unemployment rate.
Like you said, it lasted for a long time.
It did. And so part of it is maybe saying that
that's not caused by capitalism.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
How could it be caused by capitalism?
It was wasn't it the stock market that crashed? That's capitalism, right?
Come back. But Hoover, who was not a capitalist, he was a right-wing moderate. He put in all these tariffs and all these other
laissez-faire. Wasn't he a proponent of laissez-faire economics? Let the market let the market determine itself.
He started programs he started the tariffs, which started a tariff war. He started the tariff war.
So that was Smoot-Hawley.
Yes.
Okay, and what it did was made John, it made the Depression worse.
Well, yes, Smoot-Hawley was horrible.
Okay.
Yes, it was terrible. And so the thing is that when I hear candidate after candidate say, we're going to get you billionaires like Bernie Sanders, like they're trying to pop that B, billionaires, like he's yelling at the screen, we're going to get you billionaires. Do you ever stop to think how a person becomes a billionaire? There's not one billionaire, I tried to tell you this once, that comes from a chain of inheritance. There's no such thing as people going way back to the 1600s or billionaires. Maybe you could say the Rothschilds and a few people like that came from the 18 or something like that early. So they started with nothing. Even the Rothschilds started with nothing.
But I could sit up and say that billionaires benefit from government policy. All right. Yes. Billionaires are benefiting from the great big ugly bill. because you're looking at where they've gone in and made tax cuts permanent. So when people, and that helps you maintain, remember I talked about the status quo? So then that
Yes,
helps you
but that's
maintain
not
your
status
status quo. What
How
does
is that status
deregulation
quo?
do? Deregulation then allows capitalism to go unleashed regardless of the long-term
Okay.
impact. Do
There
you know that
are-
last year was the hottest year in the history of this planet, which has everything to do with the pollutants that we're putting into the atmosphere? I mean,
Right.
so
We-
yeah, I mean,
To
government.
say that there's no regulation in capitalism is foolish because because somebody says that, and because other people went overboard, like say you can't mine. Why are we in the position with China today where they have 90% of the minerals? Because we restricted mineral mining because we're afraid of all of the evils of some big giant copper pit where you leave it hanging. That's not capitalism. That's just the government.
That
did
is
not make sure-
capitalism. That is capitalism, and then is supported
The
by
government should
government.
regulate it.
Is
There's nothing
supported
wrong with
by
the
government policy. Who is the Dow Chemical?
There's nothing wrong with the government telling the company to fix the land after they
Or
serve it, like a
putting
piece of
something
crap.
in place where they don't overly pollute the land. What's wrong with that?
I didn't say they should pollute it. The assumption.
No, what
that
I'm
they're
saying is,
always
but
up
they
for
will
pollution.
if government says that you don't. And even when government
There's
says
nothing
that
wrong
you
with them
don't,
telling-
because of
there's
their
nothing wrong with
influence in government
regulating
and lobbyists, it was a Dow Chemical. Who did Tupperware? Is that Dow?
I can't
Tupperware did so
Might be
much
right.
damage environmentally. All the chemicals that goes into making Tupperware. And so
So it's
what
just a
happened
matter
was
of
the
the
government,
Republicans
hold
do
on,
all the
John,
capitalism
the
and
government
Democrats don't?
goes after Dow.
Okay, so,
So
is it
then
all
Dow
or
has
nothing
someone in
Democrats?
EPA. Then
Is it all
EPA
or
goes
nothing?
and then writes the
We've
settlement.
all heard this a million times. We've heard all of that.
But it has
That's
real life
brilliant.
consequences.
Okay, so are you saying Democrats are the anti-capitalist party?
No,
Because if they never say a single good thing about it, which they
that's
do
not true. That's
what
not
have
true.
they ever said good about it? What?
I think it's worth asking if the status quo is
I
good.
didn't say status quo. Capitalism is not status quo.
Yes, it
It's progress by dynamism.
Yes, it is. It is
How can it be
status quo.
Status quo.
It is the status quo.
How could it be? How
Are
could
we
it be?
still operating a capitalistic system?
Partially.
Okay, then it's the status quo. How long have we been
Why
doing
is it
it?
called status quo? How do you call it status quo? That's static. Status quo is standing still. That's
Yes.
like we're living in the 1700s. We're not living in the 1700s. We're not
I think
even
either
living
way
in the
it's a
80s.
failure. Either way it's a failure.
A failure compared to who? Compared to what?
The average person,
Where's your ideal better? Sweden? Do you realize how horrible Sweden is right now? What Denmark
no.
did to Greenland?
I think
What
for
did
some reason,
Denmark
for some
do to
reason,
Greenland?
for some reason, other people try and compare it to other countries. But there is
Well, you guys are all
there's a
holding
way
Sweden
for
up
there's
as
a
this
way
wonderful
forward.
place,
There's a
aren't you?
way forward
Aren't
where
you guys always holding Sweden up as your ideal?
democratic socialism can have its own place in America.
Aren't you always holding Sweden as your ideal?
No,
They still didn't
Come
they
on,
just,
tell me
didn't,
that
didn't
one
they just come
socialist
out
has
as
said,
one
we're
of
going to use
the
the Swedish model.
Hey John, didn't Sweden just come out as one of the places where people talk about their well-being? They have some of the
I
happiest.
didn't say they're not wealthy. I didn't say they're not wealthy.
No, I didn't say I talk about their well-being.
Yes,
But I
they have
think
a high
I think
well-being.
that it
But
has
they haven't
always
abolished
been,
capitalism. You're correct. You
There-
have, they have
there's-
not
there-
abolished capitalism.
you know, before there's always been there's always been the socialism. For example, if you look at, and let me just use ancient Israel, part of their socialism was the money that was paid to the temple would go
Yeah,
there to deal with the
10%.
women. Hold on, they would
20%
go to
maximum.
take care of the needs of widow and children.
Yeah, but total 20%
That's socialism.
is not. But that's 20% of the economy when you include the 10% for government and 10% for the upkeep
I'm going to
of
ask you the
poor.
same question I asked Meech. Are you paying into the Social Security system?
Of course I am.
Are you going to take your Social Security check?
Yes, of
Okay,
course.
appreciate you.
Now, look
Medicare.
at how it was invested. Look
You
at
gonna,
how
are
it
you
was
gonna
invested.
are you gonna sign up for Medicare at 65?
Yes.
Okay.
How was it invested?
So why do you
and how
accept
could it
that
extend it?
socialism and then other socialism?
We asked how it was invested. Was it invested properly, or was it just given to the government?
It was given to the government.
So
As
shouldn't
Al
it have
Gore
been
said, the
invested as a
lockbox.
safe- So why didn't it get invested in the market as a whole?
Oh, because the market is too volatile.
Wait. For 100 years, it's been a growth of 7 to 10%. That's how your pension works. You have a pension. You've talked about it.
Let's see, the
Average 7 to 10%
Dow
over 100
Jones-
years.
The Dow Jones just dropped at its high was at
Of course.
50,000. It is now it's dropped some 5,000 points.
Never
and it's
been zero.
continued. And it's going to continue
Never
to
been
drop
zero.
until we.
But it's
All right,
never
John,
been
let me
zero.
get my
No,
next
it's not going
caller.
to continue to drop. It's going to be picked up because people are going to buy it when it's cheap.
Okay, all right. Appreciate
It's
you,
a
man.
mountain. It always grows with little zigzags.
Okay.
And they can be big zigzags, but it's
Yeah,
a
but
mountain.
if
It
that's your
grows with compound.
401k and you're talking about coming out now and want to be able to, that zigzag will have impact. Appreciate you. Caller, welcome to the program. Good morning. Hello? Hey,
Am I on the phone, man?
what's happening?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Well, John just got through explaining it, and it was a big fight, wasn't it?
What did he explain, Meech?
Well, he was getting to see what we got to realize is that you name all those billionaires, but a lot of those billionaires, man, are on the Democrat side as well. We got it twisted that only Republicans got big money, and that's where we need to get out of that deal because they're not the only people that got money. The Democrats right now are actually leading with in the bankroll.
Yeah, about 20 years ago, we didn't want money in politics, but Citizens United has changed that.
So what do you? Let me ask you a question. If they mandated, my question earlier was, you guys had to go to break. If they mandate us to all drive,
Oh, no, we don't.
Huh?
No, we don't. Take your time. Yeah, you gonna do that?
If
Then
they
he said,
mandate us
drop the mic.
all to drive electric vehicles, would you be happy with that?
Yes.
I mean,
You'd be happy with that?
Environmentally, we're better off.
Environmentally, we're better off.
Yes.
But look what it cost. Look what it costs to build those to get the batteries. Look what
But look what capitalism does. As you produce more, the price of that technology comes down. Do you have a flat screen TV?
Well, that's all that's available right now.
Do you have one?
Yes.
Okay. Remember when they first came out, how expensive they were?
Uh-huh.
And you look at the cost now, because now it's part of what we do every day. You cannot see yourself going back to a TV with tubes or TV with a back on it.
Well, I'll be totally honest with you. I got one of them too.
Okay, which is the better product?
You really want the truth?
Yep.
The flow model with the little box on the top, man. Hey, man, I'm not.
Man, get out the 20th century, man. We're in the 21st century, man.
You asked me a question.
Okay,
and you put that TV together.
All right.
You put that TV. But hold on. If they mandate everybody to drive electric vehicles, that means they have total control of you, brother. Okay. That means if they tell you to shelter in place, you have to shelter. If a grid go down, you can't move to any. You can't even go to a safety zone because it's shelter in place. You see all of this Vision Zero. This is all of these one-lane highways that they're one-way streets and tunnel vision, tunnel control. It's called tunnel control.
You know what this little incursion is teaching us? One, how overly dependent we are on petrochemicals. Two, if they continue to block that strait, then it's going to begin to impact plastics, and we have so much plastic. And so when it's the petrochemical folks who want us to continue to use combustion engines.
Would you like to be told to shelter in place and you can't move in a state of emergency and you need to get somewhere?
If it's a state of emergency, it depends on the state of emergency and why they're telling me to shelter in place.
You don't. You surrender. You surrender your free will, man. When you give up these things. Same way with your heating.
I think you running around thinking you have more freedom than you actually have.
Well, it feels so good just thinking that.
Okay, but that ain't your reality.
But to know that I have no freedom would be absolutely like I'm in prison. You see,
or
it's just sort
a
of like
descendant of an enslaved African.
Well, if you get technical, we all have chains on us, man.
All right,
we
man.
really do.
I just got red and blue, man. I got to go. You're listening to Community Voice. We're joined in studio by Mr. Drake Bentley. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. You sure? All right. Carla, welcome to the program. I look like, you remember when the girls used to play double dutch and you see them kind of leaning in? They get that's what I feel like. Carla, welcome to the program.
Good morning. First thing I want to say, we could have had peace and everybody could have been living good, but they had to vote that ignorant nigga up in there because they got that 40-ounce fried chicken eating white drunk that they want to invite to the barbecue, and it's always the cousin who can't get nobody who feels she got a white man, she got something great. You ain't got nothing but somebody that's beat down by the devil, who ain't never had a life of failures and detriments. His mammy ain't taught him nothing. His grandpappy wasn't good for nothing. Or everybody he partners either a rapist, a drunk, a cokehead, or a Knickerbocker-looking whore. And look at where we are at today.
AURN News. I'm Jamie Jackson. Americans are dealing with a wave of stress, particularly Black Americans, from war over.
Hello? Hello?
He caught you midstream, man. Go on, man. Sorry about that. That was a technical.
What I'm saying is, we could have had peace, but for some reason they don't like peace, and they had to put this nigger in there, and they can come in all shapes and colors. I just don't understand why, because if a person is white and they talk like the bottom of the barrel and they got kicked off their grandmama porch because the people who raised them wasn't good for sugar, honey, iced tea, they get praised. You know what I mean? Right. All of y'all who voted for him, you're still in the same tax bracket. You're still a nigger. You ain't sitting at the table. You're probably sitting breathing on his feet because you depended on him to welcome you, and I don't give a damn. I'm sick of it. Every time we get somewhere, they always want to get this white. I don't want to say white because I don't want to tarnish. You always want to get this trash like bottom of the barrel, inbreeding, racist, douchebags that should have been flushed down the toilet, that should have made it to the fallopian tubes anyway. Understand that. And now we're sitting here. And then you got people dumb as a brick and dumb as piss and it's in an abandoned toilet for 12 months. 356 days, and look at where we at today. All because of somebody who's white, to somebody who thinks like a nigger, somebody who probably still drop 40-ounce bottles, fried chicken thing, screw down your daughter, and she thinks she got something great because she come over there in a minivan with a busted hair like just to get $600 a month. Right. Have a good day.
Hey, Keith, why don't Al tell us how he really feels? My goodness. AURN News.
Caller, welcome to the program.
My goodness. Wow. Take a breath. Hold on.
That was a mistake.
Well, you get your confirmation, right? I mean, you get.
Is there another caller?
No.
All right, let's.
After Al, I don't think no more.
All right, so can we get back to sports?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay. So who do you like, Final Four? Who do you like?
I'm in a pool. Did pretty good 2 years ago. Won the pool. This year, I'm in like 50th place. Picked St. John's. I'm hoping for UConn. I like the Big East. I don't know. I thought Wisconsin was a bit disappointing.
Wisconsin overachieved
in the regular season.
Yeah, I mean, but I think that they overachieved because it caught up with them when they got to the tournament.
I think the thing with Wisconsin is they might be more focused on being a really good hockey and volleyball school as opposed to football and basketball.
You just made me. I'm so part of the Grateful Red. Oh, man, I love Wisconsin women's volleyball, and I love Wisconsin women's hockey.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I mean, you can, hey, we're Wisconsin is a winter sport. I remember growing up, and what was really unusual about Milwaukee, and I'm sure it was probably the same thing in the Twin Cities, was that Black people ice skated. Yeah, that freak people out. Like my boys, when I'm in Maryland, they go, "Yo, what?" I said, "Man, we ice skated, dude." I mean, skating was big.
At Garfield Park, didn't they?
Oh man, that was the spot, man.
Lindbergh Park had an ice skating
Lindbergh
rink.
Park, most
Yep.
places,
That
man,
one-
you can, and you still got skating rinks. Where they go and they put the ice down. Not as much, but my mother every Christmas would buy me skates. So so I'm a real big that football team, but that's a whole totally different animal. So you like UConn? I don't like UConn because of Dan Hurley. Okay, go on.
What's wrong with Dan Hurley?
Man, in his way, he's just like his dad. Have you ever read the book Miracle of St. Anthony's?
No.
Great book.
Yeah.
Talks about how his dad coached in Jersey City, New Jersey. They didn't even have a home gym. But he turned out so many 4-star, 5-star players. Obviously, his sons, Bobby, who played at Duke, and then Dan, who played at Seton Hall.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's arrogant. I just don't like him. So it's hard. And I know we should be cheering for the Big East, but no. Okay.
Who else is there? You got Illinois, Arizona, and Michigan.
I think it's going to be Arizona and Michigan.
Well, Arizona plays Michigan, I think.
Do they?
I think so, right? I think Arizona plays Michigan.
Ooh, that's tough.
And then pretty sure UConn plays Illinois. Could be wrong though.
Well, don't they? I thought, didn't they change it now where they reseed?
No, I don't think so. Or maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Let me pull it up. What about the women?
I'm always cheering for Dawn Staley.
Okay.
But I know
nobody
UConn's
saw Duke get knocked out of there. Nobody saw that coming.
Huh?
Yeah.
Nobody saw Duke losing that game.
Duke didn't. It's obvious Duke did. They was up by 19.
Yeah, and that was the last
Illinois plays
second shot too.
UConn, and Arizona plays Michigan.
Wow, that's tough, man. The year we won the state championship, the first one at Dominican. We were very fortunate because we played the team from up north,
Mm-hmm.
and Marquette played St. Catherine's. They were two best teams in the state. So they knock each other. One of them knock each other out. That same year that happened, where then Milwaukee had 3 teams upstate in 74, Madison, North, and Lincoln. Lincoln was like undefeated, one of the greatest squads ever. They have to play North Division in the semifinals, and then they get caught by Superior. The next day Superior was actually a very good team. It wasn't like Dominican. Dominican went into the state tournament with a losing record. So, that was David beating Goliath. Superior was probably a better match for, and then it was a coaching strategy that they were able to beat Lincoln, because what they did was they just sagged. They dared Lincoln to shoot jumpers, and they couldn't. Okay. I just saw it just real quick with the women. Size really matters in the women's game. UCLA is a big team. They are a big team, man. I mean, with the Betts sisters, they're big. And I think that size is going to be a problem for some of these other teams. You're not shooting well, but yeah, they're big. They're really big. So I'm thinking it could be UConn, not UConn.
Could be double UConn.
Yeah. But they did it last year, didn't they?
No, because then UConn won 2 and then lost 1, right? I think.
Yeah, but they've been undefeated, like 50-something else. So
Yeah.
And they're big too. They're really big. AZ Fuzz and Strong, those are big girls. They're big. So I mean, I think it's going to be. We'll see. Hopefully, and I'm with you. I'm a big South Carolina Gamecock. My wife loves South Carolina. She always wants to know what South Carolina's playing. Dawn Staley's a great coach, but that size is going to be well. Of course, they got to get past VCU tonight. So before we get ahead of ourselves, and then that Michigan-Texas game is going to be good. Texas is really good. Booker, caller, welcome to the program.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This is Rick calling long distance from Germany.
What up, Rick?
I'm calling you from a more socialist, capitalist hybrid than America. And I would also say to your audience that even though Star Trek is an adventure for most young people, the backstory behind Star Trek is that socialism swept the planet and saved humanity. That story doesn't get told unless you pick up the books of Star Trek lore and read. I would also say that America, the wealthy that run America, would resist socialism there in America, a more perfect socialism there in America with civil war. I'm done, fellas.
Hey, Rick, let me ask you a quick question before you're done. There's not a lot of trash in Germany, is there?
Well, where I live in the South, everybody has their own paper, plastic, and metal, and black trash, which is everything that doesn't fit into paper and plastic and metal. But it's in my small town, we struggle with trash cans picked up by the city, by the township. But Germany struggles with waste management, but I think it's a better system than you find most places on the East Coast.
Yeah. Someone had pointed that out because in Europe, they basically recycle everything, right? In America, we get to recycling, but part of it is because of petrochemicals they want you to replace. You know, something someone pointed out to me, you cannot go in, me, cannot repair an iPhone. That's by design, right? Because either you send it back to the factory or you replace it. So now we have another problem, all these lithium batteries, and we haven't figured out what we're going to do with that, which is have an environmental impact. But I'm trying to make, you know, if America had a very stringent approach to recycling, a lot of this trash you see, you wouldn't see if it was enforced. But
Let me say in closing, life gets better after the apocalypse.
All right. Hopefully I won't be around for that, but okay. Appreciate you. All right, man. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it is, you know, so in Milwaukee, and here again, people want the socialism in Milwaukee because we want that trash picked up. Well, that costs money, right? I mean, to keep up with trash. And in America, where again, we're in a disposable economy, right? We don't fix it. We don't repair it. We throw it away, right? And then what do you have to do? You have to buy it. You know, it is, I had the original air conditioner that came with the house. Guy could have fixed it. Why would he fix it? He wants to sell me a new unit. You know, I mean, that's just how America works. You know, one of the there was a black man who invented that little affiliate that's in the light bulb. And that's one of the first examples of design obsolescence, because he did it where you get a light bulb now, it lasts 10 years. Prior to that, it would burn out. Why would it burn out? So you buy a new one. So part of where we were kind of having these environmental concerns where we don't have to replace things. Back in the 80s, when we're dealing with that the recession in the 80s, one of the industries that got hit hard was the auto industry, right? What the Japanese did was the Japanese didn't build a car that would only last the life of your financing. In America, they did design obsolescence, right? So now Japanese cars become more popular because they're better made, they're long lasting. I'm driving an Acura right now that has almost 130,000 miles on it. 130.
How long you had that car?
13 years.
That's about right.
You know, so, but I could tell you that the Chevette my mama bought back in the day had about 5 years, and then it starts falling apart, you know, and then you have to make a business decision. if I'm going to be putting all this money into repair, even though I paid for the car, I'm probably better off buying a new car.
Yeah.
So our economics in this country is not so much that we go in and we recycle. I try to use fabrics that are recycled. There are companies out there that are a little bit more environmentally concerned, and so it's like recycled fabric. There's a place over in Glendale that you can take stuff instead of throwing it in the dump. You take it there, they recycle it. If they'll go through if they can do a resale on it. If not, they can go and break it down and then it'll be used again. They have clothes that are made out of recycled fabrics. But again, big economics don't want us to do that. Big economics to just buy something new.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So did you give me so you like South Carolina?
Yeah. I'm always rooting for South Carolina.
I'm a Raven Johnson fan. I love Raven Johnson. Raven Johnson, you talk about a person who's developed her game. When they played LSU 4 years ago, remember they sagged on her, dared her to shoot because she couldn't shoot a jumper? Do it now. Do it now. I mean, really, and that's the other thing. I believe this, and I think this happened yesterday, and this was Duke would have had a problem even if they made the Final Four because Duke is a relatively young team.
The women's team?
And the men's team. The men's team. The women's team is pretty young too. But, experience says a whole lot. When Wisconsin made the Final Four that year with Frank the Tank, they had 4 and 5 year players. Yeah. These were grown men. Mm-hmm. And then you saw it with the Fab Five. Remember, they're all freshmen playing against a Duke team that was like the first year they were juniors and then seniors. Sometimes youth is served. That's what makes OKC such a kind of an outlier in terms. But normally when you look at teams that are going to win championships, they're usually more mature because you got the experience, what to do in that situation. John Shire had never been in that situation before because he would have said 10 seconds, let them foul you. Protect the ball, let them foul you. And then instead of the guy, oh, man, you could just see, is that Caden, right? Caden Boozer?
Yeah,
Poor
there's
Caden.
2 Boozers, right?
Yeah, the twins. And he's pretty big. Like, he's 6'4", but when you stand him next to his brother, who's 6'8", all right, man. We got a few minutes. Huh? We got a caller. Caller, welcome to the program.
Hey, Keith. John here.
Hey, John here.
A couple of minutes ago, I think when you were talking to Mish, you said something about how the computers get cheaper and cheaper and more powerful. Now, how does that work? I know it's true, so how does that work?
What do you mean?
I agree with what you said. The computers get cheaper and cheaper and more powerful. Why is it working that way? Why does that happen?
I don't know. What do you think?
Because that's the way capitalism works. Because technology grows as we discover new stuff, capital, physical and mental capital, human capital mixing with inventive Thomas Edison, Westinghouse, each of these guys tinkering, laying on their table, they lose their family.
Hey, you are
and they're waiting to get something done. A banker invests in them like some kind of a Shark Tank. And they finally get their light bulb, or whatever their particular batteries, a DC battery. So these guys, they break their neck to get something better, and they transform society. And then this is happening on the computer, where it's, as we used to hear, it's transforming every 6 to 8 months, probably faster than that. So it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. It took a whole room to get to the moon. Now that's less than in one little tiny chip, because intelligence gets better and we can use less and less resources to do more and more stuff better and better.
We also gear up where we can make it cheaper. Yes,
that's the whole point.
As you move from prototype to mass production Correct. Means that now the cost of it is going to drop, right? Because just trying that. Let me do this while I have you on the phone. Milwaukee Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated is presenting a Wisconsin Supreme Court forum. There's two candidates, 2 individual forums, 1 informed community tonight at the Martin Luther King Jr. Center, 1531 West Fleet at 5:30, you have an opportunity to meet Judge Maria Lazar. On April 4th, then you also have the same opportunity to meet Judge Chris Taylor. There are many different groups who've come together to make this available, make this opportunity available. One of the things, Romel, that freaked me out was about 3 weeks ago, they said 67% of the electorate still hadn't made a decision on who they're going to vote for. It tells there's a whole lot of attention paid to this. But anyway, you get a chance to go, and you can meet Judge Maria Lazar tonight at the King Center at 5:30. All right, caller, welcome to the program.
Oh, yeah, it's Bill Me. You said, hold on. I also want to say for Mish, I think he's really brave, and he's got guts, and he doesn't hold back. And I know a lot of people hate him, insult him. They say you should censor him. I'm glad that you don't censor him, and you don't censor me. I really appreciate that, and I think it's necessary to have an actual conversation instead of everybody agreeing with everything. It's really helpful. I really appreciate that you are hospitable to him and me, because I haven't heard too many people challenge the stuff on here.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the gifts of this radio station is that we understand that there's diversity of views, right? And that then people can make a decision on what they will reject or what they will endorse. But that diversity, I tell people we should try to get out the echo chamber as much as possible, because you might think, based on the environment, the silo you're in, that this is all that's happening, only to discover when you get out there's a bigger world, and there are other thoughts out there.
Correct. Wouldn't you agree, you're into logic and stuff, that it's good to be able to define the other person's point of view from their point of view, and then we can discuss, because we understand. If I understand what you think, and we can take our time to actually say, is this what you're saying, Keith? And then you can say to me, John, is this what you're saying? And then I can say, yes, you got it. Now we can iron out the actual differences. And
it's trite, but it's true. You know, you can disagree without being disagreeable. You can disagree where it doesn't become personal, where you're attacking the person. You attack the ideas. And I think sometimes we will kind of ebb into attacking the other person, which might be an indication that you might be losing the argument.
or getting emotional. Yeah, that's a danger. It turns people off. Honey works better than vinegar, my mom used to say.
Yep. Well, and I just think that, Socratic discussions, you even know among the Jewish people, they'll bring in a scripture, and then you would sit there and you would have, what are all the ramifications? How do you see it? I mean,
that's what the Talmud is. What you just described as the Talmud. They just sit there and they bring up
and you discuss it. Where we tend to be more dogmatic. I'm right, and maybe I might be right, but then maybe there's another right too. Maybe I don't have exclusivity to right.
And what you just said, when I keep hearing these bad things about the Talmud, and I finally look into it, ask the Chabad Lubavitch, they're the best for actually asking. And they say what it is there's all these discussions, and they deliberately push it to the limit. What if this happens? What if that happens? And it's extreme. So somebody picks out that extreme example in the middle of a sentence, in the middle of a debate about something so extreme. And then they say, well, here's the Jews saying that. This is in the middle of a discussion.
Well, I think, it's always the question. And, where does that question lead? And I will usually start off with a question. It was something that I had never thought about it this way. Is it Neil?
Neil.
deGrasse Tyson.
He said that when you're in your undergrad studies, you have information poured into you. So when you get to the master's, you're going in and you have a question, and now you're researching the question to get an answer to the question, which I thought was very different in terms of undergrad. You're just getting it, and then the questions. And so we should always have questions. I'm not opposed to questioning and questioning. And then, how many absolute truths do we really have in this world? That's a totally different program. But, sometimes truth is not absolute.
Yeah, correct.
All right, man. Appreciate you. Got to go. Drake, thank you, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate
it's a pleasure.
You'll be back.
I'll be back.
I'll be back.
I'll be back.
Romel? Thank you, sir, as always. Biko, Debo, Clark. Who you with? Callers. We appreciate you. The good Lord willing, creek don't rise. Hope to talk to everybody tomorrow. And as always, go from this place in peace.